at all that money, yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. I don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking time for hemp. It is Wednesday, Leap Day, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, LEAP.cc. I would encourage you to go to the website, check it out. You can find some great speakers to bring to your neck of the woods. A big thank you to KDK Distributors for being nice enough to give us a grant to keep us loud, proud, and strong. And please do not forget, we are no longer just a 1-hour broadcast known as Time for Hemp. We are a global broadcasting community known as the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. 30 hosts from around the world bringing you over 40 hours a week of original broadcasts about the need to end prohibition. We are an iHeartRadio that rocks. And we are everywhere where internet is found, and anytime you hear the word joint on the big broadcast. Nearly 2.5 million people from all around the world pack their bongs, their pipes, their vaporizers, and take time for hemp. My joint host this morning, Peter Chris. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Casper. It must be Leap Day on Time for Hemp again. And I also want to throw a thank you out there to all those people that are funding you, because if they weren't funding you, I couldn't be talking to all the people that I'm talking to. So I just want to let everybody know that we understand it and we appreciate it greatly.
And a big thank you to Mary Lynn Mathery and Al Byrne. They have kept the lights on literally this month and last. They paid the light bill, the cable bill, and because of them, we are being heard. Peter, why don't you let the whole world know who our joint guest is today?
Okay, our joint guest is a member and a board member of LEAP, James Gierach. He was previously, in his past life, he was a prosecutor and sent a lot of people off to prison, and a lot of them for drug crimes and stuff. And then a light went on, and many years ago for him, many years ago for him, a light went on, and he completely changed his tactic, went into defense work, and is now a practicing attorney in the Chicago area, and a board member of LEAP, and a guest on Time for Hemp. James, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Casper. It's a pleasure to be with the two of you about my favorite subject, drugs and marijuana and hemp.
Yep.
Well, I know, James, you're all excited. You got to see the Honorable Hillary Clinton embrace the world of marijuana last night, right?
Yeah, you know, I happened to turn on the news yesterday, CNN, and they were doing a town hall meeting and interviewing Hillary Clinton, who's, of course, on a book tour. Hard Choices is the name of her book. And I don't know if that's supposed to be a parody on JFK's Profiles in Courage, but I'm trying to think of what hard choices she's made. She made a hard choice when she authorized Bush to go to war in 2002 and voted for the resolution. She's saying that we withdrawn troops too quickly. And then she got to the subject of hemp and actually marijuana. She was asked, well, what about medical marijuana? It's kind of sweeping the country. And she says, and here I've downloaded, so I've got the words accurately from USA Today. They say, well, we need to wait and see what the evidence is on recreational marijuana on these two states that have now passed it. So her view on recreational is wait and see. So if she were in charge of things, there wouldn't be recreational marijuana in those two states, because she'd still be waiting to see what had happened, which was nothing in the other states until those two came along. And then on medical marijuana, she says reluctantly, well, for those who are really in extreme and limited cases where there's anecdotal evidence that it may help, and she used the phrase anecdotal evidence, like anecdotal evidence doesn't count. And then she limited it further by saying, well, in appropriate circumstances. So even medical marijuana, this lady who wants to be president of the United States is an anachronism, something out of another era and time, who doesn't recognize that the United States is in favor of not only medical marijuana, but marijuana because it's not harmful. It's more like a glass of wine than a drug. And she could have easily said that, we've got marijuana in the same schedule with heroin, which is ridiculous, and Americans realize it and are demanding change state by state in referendum and by action of the legislatures. But no. She's asked, well, have you ever smoked marijuana? I was hoping she was going to say, I tried it, but I didn't inhale. If she would have said that, I mean, I would have laughed with everybody else, just like when President Clinton would say that's what he did. Yeah. But anyway, instead she says, quote, I didn't do it when I was young. I'm not going to start now. So now I don't know. Apparently, she doesn't anticipate having MS or neurological disorders or pain or AIDS or any kind of the numerous disabilities, glaucoma, that cause people to want to use marijuana. She's deciding now not to use it when she doesn't know what her health is going to be down the road.
Did she mention where she is on this whole round earth thing?
On the whole which?
Round earth. There's people going around saying the earth isn't flat.
Oh, I thought it was flat myself. Every time
I stand on the beach and look at the ocean, it looks flat to me. I mean, I don't know where this round earth stuff is coming from.
Now, I'm not interested in politics. I'm interested in people's health. I'm interested in safety. I'm interested in people having the right to choose how they want to live and what they want to put in their body. But and they were asking her about Benghazi, which happened about a year and a half ago now, and she says, "Well, it was a confusing time." And she said, we're trying to get the facts. If it takes her a year and a half to get the facts about what happened in Benghazi, and it's now been millenniums worth of prior use of marijuana, and she's still trying to get the facts, she says we need more research. She said, when you take marijuana, we don't know what impact it's having on and when it interacts with other drugs in the system, not specifying whether legal or illegal. I mean, She's regressed, and she wants to be president. I don't want war. I don't want more drug war. I don't want more prohibition. I don't want more intolerance. I don't want people who want to wait and see. I want reform, and I want it now. So I don't, at the moment, want Hillary.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. There's an old phrase that none are so blind than those that will not see. And I think she falls in, and a lot of them fall into that category. The evidence is obvious. I'm still sticking with my only prediction I've made since I've been in this movement for 25 years, and that is at the beginning of this year, I predicted that they will move marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 or 3, which finally will end the marijuana question. And one other thing, Jim, it's interesting when you talk about that, because during all that time that they were talking to her about marijuana, they could have been talking to her about the failed policy of prohibition, that no matter where it has ever been used, when societies have attempted to prohibit consenting adults from doing things together, it has never worked in the history of our species since the Garden of Eden, but yet they won't ask her that question. They'd rather dance around the marijuana issue.
Well, somebody should read her the story of the Garden of Eden and prohibition from then forward, because she's missed a lot of history, and goodness knows maybe she's going to be one making decisions. It's fearful.
Now, there is some very good news that we have for everybody listening today. In fact, I broached this about 6 months ago, and then I had to correct myself because I was wrong. But I understand I can say this correctly today, that we have now, LEAP has been accepted by the UN as a non-governmental organization. So we are part of the advisory staff at the UN. Is that not correct, sir?
Well, yes. For the first time, LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, has received what's called consultative status with the United Nations, which entitles LEAP to participate in the activities and the meetings, to have the right to send representatives on behalf of LEAP and to participate with other NGOs, meaning non-governmental organizations, to try to improve drug law for the world. And as you, Peter, and I'm sure you as well, Casper, know, the nations of the world in 1961 entered into a treaty, the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, that put marijuana in the same schedule with heroin, and decided that all the nations of the world would go home and to criminalize the use of substances, including marijuana, and to provide for the deprivation of liberty of those people who chose to use, sell, transport. There's about 50 verbs, maybe 40 verbs in the prohibition paragraph of that convention. And so we have had prohibition since 1961 forward. In the United States, Nixon declared the war on drugs in 1971. It was 10 years later. So initially, even though the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs was passed in 1961, it really didn't cause much harm. It wasn't until politicians learned they could collect votes saving the people from drugs and their children from drugs like marijuana that it really took off. And then Republicans and Democrats in the United States alike supported the war on drugs because it collected votes for politicians. It's historically worked well. Hillary Clinton is still hanging on to that bad practice of politicians from decades ago. But the people themselves are recognizing the war on drugs doesn't work, puts more drugs everywhere, uncontrolled and unregulated drugs, and the absolute ban and prohibition is preventing people from getting medicine. So anyway, yes, it's very positive, very constructive that LEAP will now have a voice and be able to participate in these activities at the United Nations. The United Nations is the fountainhead for drug prohibition for the world, and it needs to end, which is the reason that LEAP has prepared a proposed amendment to the 3 UN drug prohibition treaties, which are available on the LEAP website at www.leap.cc. So if you just put in leap.cc, you can see the LEAP proposed amendment that would eliminate the idea of one size fits all for every nation in the world, and instead would allow the nations of the world to experiment. As Hillary said, these 2 states are experiments. Let's see how it does. We need to do the same thing on an international basis and let the nations of the world experiment with a drug policy that they think works for different substances. And the ones that work, they should be exported elsewhere and tried elsewhere. So that's the international news, which is good.
Well, one thing I'm all excited about is that we are finally, looks like we're going to be standing out in front of our nation's capital there at Washington Square Monument, singing Kumbaya with all the members of the DEA, doing big warm bear hugs soon.
Well,
right? I mean, Eric Holder and President Obama is going to quit arresting for marijuana in the states where it's legal. They're turning out the nonviolent criminals. I mean, don't you just see the DEA soon to come out and apply for jobs trying to work in the marijuana industry because they've seen the light?
Yeah, well, I think all DEA agents should apply for marijuana licenses.
There you go. You know, it's interesting. If in 1988 I would have predicted that within the next 12 months the Berlin Wall would come down, everybody would have thought I was crazy.
You know, I was thinking today, you know, all this talk about war and the violence and the killing that's going on in Syria, in Iraq again, you know, these radical forces who care too much about religion and brand names that are killing and destroying property and making life miserable for so many. And I'm thinking that here we have a country, Mexico, that's producing 21,000 tons of marijuana a year. And what can the United States do to help Syria and to help Iraq and the people that live there? And the thought came to me, we should buy tons of marijuana, and we should send our helicopters over and drop packages of marijuana to the soldiers and to the people who are suffering and the people who've been wounded and who are in pain. We can have a medical marijuana airlift to these war-torn communities where people start smoking marijuana instead of thinking about killing, think about loving and being more tolerant. Instead of wanting to get up and march to the next town to conquer it, instead sit back in a rocking chair and find out that they don't hate the other guy.
You know, it's interesting when you mentioned it, because one of the words you just used was, in these countries, loving. And I'd like to point out that they're much deeper. We still have a problem with morality policing in this country. In fact, we're seeing it slowly but surely going away with the gay issue. But in those countries, they have laws against loving. If you don't love the right people, they put you in prison for that or execute you for that in those countries. So I think those countries are wonderful examples of what morality policing, of what using armed law enforcement in the streets of your community to enforce morality looks like. And I'd also like to point out that if you decide that you are going to have morality enforced by the police in your society, there is a big question you have to ask yourself first, and that is, which morality are we going to enforce? As I just articulated, Islam has an interpretation of reality. I'd like to add that Judaism has an interpretation of morality. Christianity, if you look at all the different Christian religions, have very different versions of morality depending on which one you look at. Hindus, Buddhists, they all have their own interpretation of morality. Which one should we make everybody live by? And that's the question that we're not talking about, and I think we need to.
Yeah, well, religion has been responsible for many wars for many millenniums. And as I think about it, how many of those nations believed in pot and hemp?
Right.
And I would venture to say not a single one. So as a campaign advisor to Hillary Clinton, I would suggest that she start smoking pot before she starts declaring what we ought to be doing in Syria and Iraq and these international hotspots.
So I take it you don't think that by the time Obama leaves the office, he's going to end the war on drugs?
Well, you know, I think he's a practical person who wants to end the war on drugs, who sees the harm that the war on drugs does, but on the other hand, as a practical person, if you don't get elected, you can't put the policies that you believe in place. And if you take a bite that's so big that the public can't swallow it, if you're a leader that is so far out in front of the people on this curved earth that they can't see you because you're out so far in front of them, then you can't accomplish as much good as you do if you take a smaller bite and not get quite so far out ahead. So what has he done? He's waited till the second term so he'd get the second term. And then he starts saying, well, you know, these penalties are so draconian and with drug laws. Our attorney general is going to say, we are instructing the attorneys, U.S. attorneys across the country, not to use these laws passed by the Congress that are so draconian as to disrupt the society and life and families. And so don't do them for nonviolent drug offenses. Don't use them. And so how big a bite is that? It's a huge bite. When they start holding hearings and they're saying that we need to reduce the number of criminal offenses, particularly nonviolent drug offenses that provide for mandatory minimum sentences, that is a big bite. When when we start recognizing the racial discriminatory impact of drug prosecution and drug infliction, drug policy infliction upon the public, there's progress. So the Clinton, I wish it was the Clinton administration, the Obama administration has said, here's the people who have spoken in a couple of states where they said they want recreational marijuana. It would have been easy to say that federal law is supreme, and the Supremacy Clause in the United States Constitution makes that law supreme. And to have taken that position and tried to assert it in court, maybe successfully, maybe not. But instead, the Obama administration had the sense to say, we're going to let the people and the plebiscite that they participated in rule. And we will not use federal monies to interfere and meddle with these people, sellers and users and growers, so long as they're complying with state law. That is a good incremental change. It's visionary. It's moderate, radical, thoughtful, compassionate, blessed.
One thing that's compassionate is paying our bills, because that's how we keep ourselves healthy here on the network. So we're going to do that and then listen to a song about how wonderful marijuana is, and then come back and take a whole lot more time for hemp.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
In need of a ganja vacation? Blaze away.
Don't criticize it.
Hotbox Jamaica. Chill. Relax and burn all day while watching the amazing ocean view. Listen to the birds. Bathe in the mineral waters of the Ganja River. Munch on tasty Jamaican Rasta food. Take a weed farm tour and hold a meditation. Book this amazing vacation for $420. Get the Sativa Special. 7 nights in Sativa dorms with ganja meals and airport transfer. Check us out at hotboxjamaica.com. That's hotboxjamaica.com. Hotbox Jamaica, a higher meditation vacation.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com, or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Education and information. See what all the buzz is all about. It's time for hemp. It's time for hemp.
That first bag of green to the man, okay. She was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. Feeling the breeze, looking at trees, watching for a pie in the sky. She was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. Sat in the slow lane, watching it all go by. Well, since a hairy mister kissed my little sister, didn't get to school on time. Took it to the teacher, says it couldn't reach her, plays the music in her mind. Don't get to no classroom till 9:30. And she was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. Heard the tunes, sniffing the blues, beginning to wonder why. She was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. Sat in the slow lane, watching it all go by. She was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. She wasn't feeling the breeze. She wasn't looking at trees and watching for a pie in the sky. She was cannabis high. Well, she was cannabis high. Sat in the slow lane, watching the world go by. Well, Mr. Hoity-Toity drove his little doity on around to Byron Bay. Came across an imp and thought it was a sin, and hoity-toity ran away. Well, she got back home round noon on the following day, and she was cannabis high. She was cannabis high, living a dream out, rolling the green and gazing at the blue, blue sky. She was cannabis high.
You've been listening to Green Fever, and that was Cannabis High here on the big broadcast. I am Casper-Leitch. We are live all around the world. Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, iHeartRadio, making a great big noise to let the whole world know that prohibition is nothing more than a bunch of failed policies, and we need to work to get rid of them and get those policies off the books all around the world. On Wednesday, Leap Day, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, we have a joint discussion with joint members of the LEAP organization. And my joint host is Peter Chris, one of the joint founders of that illustrious joint group of people. And we're having a conversation with one of his joint members who's a lawyer there in Illinois. Jim, I'm all excited. Illinois was the 20th state to have medical marijuana. They got dispensaries that looks like popping up just everywhere. I even saw on the news where they got home delivery now of medical marijuana in Illinois. In the news today, June 15th, from the from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, states that in Illinois, a new medical marijuana law could be a gold mine for investors. A politically connected Glenview attorney is hoarding pot-related company names in hopes of cashing in if the business takes off. So people are preparing to make just a buttload of money in that state. So it sounds to me like it's going to be a party there. We're all going to be dancing in the street, and it's going to be like the old Amsterdam days, huh?
Well, we have yet to see the first medical marijuana leaf in Illinois, I'm afraid. They're still talking about where will the dispensaries be located, where will the cultivators, who will be licensed, what the rules will be. I mean, it's certainly good news that Illinois has finally said yes to medical marijuana. It was a great battle to get that done. Michigan, of course, beat us. As I was hoping Illinois would be the first state to approve medical marijuana, but at least they've done so now. But they've approved this, I believe it's a 3-year experimental program or 4 pilot program, but a short duration and a pilot program. And they're going to eat up at least a year of that time just trying to get set up and get things rolling. And the dollar amount, you're talking about $1 million in investments. You've got to have your fixed location of business. So there are many obstacles still in the way. So is it good that Illinois passed medical marijuana? Absolutely. Is it here yet? It's not. About 2 weekends ago, they had an event at Navy Pier where Compassionate Care and a group, My Compassion, I think is the name of the group, principally out of or headquartered in Michigan. They came in and they spent like $60,000 in advertising and having growers and people with stories who had been cured of cancer and tumors disappearing and just heartbreaking stories being told. And then people who have been instrumental in the movement in Illinois. Talking about the fact that we're still a good 6 months, at least, maybe a year away before medical marijuana will become available. In Chicago, we finally had pot tickets passed about 2 years ago now. And a recent article in local papers here at Tribune Sun-Times, I forget which, and maybe both, said that in 90% of the small marijuana cases, they're still arresting instead of using the pot tickets. And the police districts that lead in the arrests of people for small-time pot violations are the African-American communities. So the racial disparity in the enforcement of the pot ticket laws in Cook County are still grossly racist. And are being used as minimally as possible. So even though we take a step forward, there's still such great resistance. It's like trying to get Hillary to support medical marijuana for sick people. Poor Hillary. She aggravated me last night, and I don't think she realizes how aggravated people like me who see people helped by medical marijuana are offended when somebody like her, who's a potential candidate for president of the United States, says we need more research on marijuana. Can you tell she made me mad? I would love her and give her a hug if she'd stand up and say clearly it's time for medical marijuana, it's time for recreational marijuana, it's time for freedom, it's time to open the prison cells and let people out who should never have been the first time, it's time to expunge the records. Well, so Illinois progress, Chicago progress, yes, some. Not as fast as I wish, not as fast as we need.
Well, it's interesting when you mention that. I was up in Vermont a year ago, and as I would arrive at Rotary clubs, people would come up to me and say, "Oh, did you hear? We just decriminalized marijuana here in Vermont." And my answer was always the same. I'd say to them, "Yeah, congratulations on that. We did that in 1975 in New York. Give me a call in about 30 years and let me know how it's going for you." And the reason I said that was all this stuff that we have heard about with stop and frisk, that's all under decriminalized marijuana. We're doing all that stuff.
Yeah,
so
and our cowboy superintendent of police here in Chicago, Gary McCarthy, he dragged his feet. He thought, oh yeah, this stop and frisk is good. When I spoke to him at an event sponsored by the Chicago Tribune a couple of years ago, and here Chicago is spending $76 million a year, according to the Chicago Reader, a newspaper. That $76 million a year enforcing marijuana laws, small-time marijuana offenses. So, I mean, and we can't pay the bills of our public employees. We can't pay the pension bills. The same thing statewide. The state of Illinois is in one of the worst financial conditions of any state in the nation. We've been one of the leaders in the building of prisons to incarcerate people, providing jobs for white folks downstate as we incarcerate black people from Cook County in this crazy war on drugs. We build one new prison every year through the 1990s in Illinois, penitentiaries which become albatrosses tied around the necks of taxpayers and wonder why they can't afford their real estate property tax bill. Why the state can't fund education at the 50% level. We have I believe it's about 30, maybe 40% funding of common school education through K through 12 in Illinois. One of I think we're dead last in the funding of education statewide. We have fiscally the biggest problem of any of the 50 states in the nation because of the idiotic policies in Illinois. We've got gangs. We have 200,000 gang members, they say, in Chicago. So the war on drugs continues to wreak havoc here. The mayor of the city of Chicago is still slow to get anywhere near drug policy reform. Our biggest help and hope is a woman, Toni Preckwinkle, who was an African-American woman, former school teacher, who was using common sense and saying, we can't keep spending X number of dollars a day for all these people, 10,000 people at the Cook County Jail. She said, we can't pay the bills. Anyway, that's Chicago, that's Illinois.
Well, a lot of states are dealing with the same thing. I've been through the state of Michigan, and I know you've gone through there a couple of times. You have to. You're so close to it. And it's like a war zone in Detroit. It's an empty building for miles and miles and miles. And you're right. They're still arresting people for being near a plant, but they can't even afford to keep the street lights turned on.
Yeah. I mean, Detroit's the first major city bankruptcy in a long, long time. And apparently, some law professors say, well, the states can't, or municipalities cannot declare bankruptcy. And I think Detroit's proving otherwise. What happens when you simply cannot pay the bills? What happened when the Confederacy could no longer pay the bills and they lost the battle? Well, I mean, what once was a currency is now valueless. So we have to wake up on the war on drugs. The thing that bothers me is we have people running for president, and the ones who have the brains to say that this ending the drug war is critically important, like a former governor of New Mexico, Gary Johnson. He was a Republican. He's running in the Republican primary. And the TV stations would not let him participate in the Republican Party debate. So instead, we've got these clodhoppers. The Republicans, but related to Hillary Clinton in their thinking, regressed. People in favor of war and inflicting punishment, damage, and control, and military bases, and taking other people's oil. And instead of concerned about human rights and peace and tolerance and understanding and fewer people in prison and more jobs and economic development. So it's pathetic to see that such an obvious need for political reform and change in the heart of what's wrong with America and the world, ending the war on drugs, and having people like Clinton saying we withdraw too soon from Iraq. We were withdrawing too soon from Iraq. Withdrawal maybe is good in sex, but it's not good for a political candidate when they should be talking about ending the war on drugs.
One thing we've got to end here is our own personal poverty, and how we do that is by paying the bills, and then we'll come back and take a whole lot more time for hemp.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
If you are in the Portland, Oregon area and are an OMMP card holder, then come down to Nikki's Diggity Dank Market, Portland, Oregon's first and only weekly OMMP market, presented by the Alternative Wellness Center, located at 5241 Southeast 72nd Avenue, 2 blocks south of Foster Boulevard, close to public transportation, held every Sunday 10 a.m. till 7 p.m., connecting quality vendors with patients. Nikki's Diggity Dank Market also has a weekly raffle with products from every vendor. So come down to Nikki's Diggity Dank Market and have fun while connecting with quality vendors and getting great natural medicine. If you are a vendor and want a chance to connect with OMMP patients, you can check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/Alternative Wellness Center or call 971-888-4392. Be sure to register early because space is limited. Nikki's Diggity Dank Market.
In need of a ganja vacation? Blaze away.
Don't criticize it.
Hotbox Jamaica. Chill. Relax and burn all day while watching the amazing ocean view. Listen to the birds. Bathe in the mineral waters of the Ganja River. Munch on tasty Jamaican Rasta food. Take a weed farm tour and hold a meditation. Book this amazing vacation for $420. Get the Sativa Special. 7 nights in Sativa dorms with ganja meals and airport transfer. Check us out at hotboxjamaica.com. That's hotboxjamaica.com. Hotbox Jamaica, a higher meditation vacation.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com, or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Free? Did you say free? Free hemp? Free hemp? Free hemp video and audio? Free downloads of all the top artists, all the pot artists on planet Earth. Interviews with all the people making the movement, making the hemp movement. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp.
Yes, stay alert with consciousness and let the world know how important it is to end prohibition. And I want to remind you that to be part of the solution, you've got to get up off that couch, put one foot in front of the other, and go out that door and get involved in the community around you. Now, I understand if you're watching America's Got Talent, I mean, that to me is like the only reason why anybody should be mesmerized in front of the television set. It's my reason to live, America's Got Talent. But if you're not watching that, you need to turn off the TV set and get out the door and get busy making the world a better place. I also want to encourage you to, on behalf of the Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, LEAP, and the people around you, to adopt a member of the DEA. Send them love letters, birthday cards, holiday greetings, and let them know that even though they're on the wrong side of the fence, we still love you here at Time for Hemp.
You got to spread the warmth. You have to spread the warmth.
I'll tell you. Now, Jim and Peter, there's another brilliant politician on the horizon besides Hillary Clinton, who seems to, every time he opens his mouth, says something more and more stupid about the war on drugs, and has been doing so for almost 8 years. Chris Christie. And he's done it again, hasn't he?
Yep, it looks like he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. He can't help himself. I don't know. Why doesn't he just look at the issue? And why doesn't he just scrape the drugs away from it and say, if you really are a Republican and you claim that you believe in liberty and freedom, then what greater freedom is there for a human being to be they decide what, and I'll add, who they put in their body, and it's just none of the government's business. Isn't that the definition of liberty? But again, you want to be in control, then all of a sudden liberty sounds like a different word.
You know, Casper, you're talking to some people who maybe are sitting on a couch or a stuffed chair, and you need to get up and go out and do something. People should get up out of those chairs and go register to vote. Because we got people like Christie and Hillary Clinton running on the loose who might get elected to office unless we have people who care about one another, who want to vote and make sure that the warmongers against drugs are not put into responsible positions. I said during the break, Casper, and you kind of liked it, that I would vote for a monkey for political office if they wanted to end the war on drugs before I would vote for a genius who wanted to continue the war on drugs. Because even a monkey has got more brains than a genius if they want to end the war on drugs instead of continue it. Peter, you mentioned a little bit ago you wanted to talk about the treaties a little bit more.
Yeah.
LEAP has prepared amendments to these 3 United Nations treaties that would basically do about 4 or 5 things. Number one, it would change the one-size-fits-all, requiring all nations of the world to outlaw the drugs that are listed in the schedules, and would restore national sovereignty so each nation of the world would be able to put in place a drug policy that they thought would work for the problems that they had in their particular country. That's the same thing we should do on a national basis in the United States among the states.
Jim?
Yes.
Let me interrupt just for a second. I want to point something out to the audience. Right now, under the Drug Control Treaty, the United States is in violation of that treaty because of the states that have legalized marijuana or medical marijuana. So I just want to point out that this change we're trying to make would change that.
Well, certainly Washington and Colorado are in violation. Some people may say, well, the treaties are broad enough to allow medical marijuana because it's a medicinal purpose. But certainly the United States is in violation, as is Uruguay,
right.
That has legalized drugs for recreational purposes. But so if I can continue that, so one change is this sovereignty idea, nations having the ability to put in place their own drug policy. But a second major change is we propose that cigarettes and tobacco and alcohol be included in the regulated mind-altering substances, because they of course are causing so much harm in comparison to all of the other illicit quote-unquote drugs. Another thing that we've done is changed the role of the International Narcotics Control Board, where right now it's basically a policeman requiring the nations of the world to report, well, how many drugs are you producing? How many are you exporting? How many of you are you using for medicinal purposes? And basically keeping account of of how many cocoa plants and marijuana plants and opiates, poppies and cocaine or coca bush plants. And it's not working. So instead, we would say the role of this body should be counting how many drug treatment facilities are there, how many naloxone programs, how many clean needle programs, how many people are being let out of jail because of drug policy reform laws. So basically revamping the role of, instead of being a zero-tolerant policeman, counting the successes that we're having in providing help to people. One of the things we've got the Commission on Narcotics Drugs doing, they meet once a year in Vienna, and this is the arm that sets drug policy for the United Nations. One of the things that the LEAP proposed amendment would do would require the Commission on Narcotic Drugs once a year to list which drug is the most dangerous, causing the most harm. And then it uses different standards to determine which is the most dangerous drug. Based on, first criteria is lethality. How many people are actually dying from this drug? So we could, alcohol, in the United States, a couple 100,000 people a year, Peter? Is that the number?
I think it's like 100,000, 150,000, related to alcohol use.
Yeah, and then it's cigarettes,
It's about 400,000.
So that's just the United States.
Right.
So our amendment would require the International Narcotics Control Board and the Commission on Narcotic Drugs both to determine which is most dangerous. Another criteria we use is, which drug has become more dangerous over the past year because of increased use because of increased deaths, because of increased addiction, so that it could change from year to year, so that the people of the world could be aware, and kids could be aware. Well, this is the substance that's really doing a lot of harm at the moment.
Right,
So,
Jim.
Yeah.
We're coming up on the end of the hour. You got any websites or any local stuff or anything like that you got going on up there you want to plug?
Well, I really would encourage listeners to go to the LEAP website, leap.cc. And over on the right-hand side, it talks about, there's a little box that says, read the LEAP treaty, and there's a link you can go to. And then down at the bottom, it says if you're Hispanic, you can read it in Spanish. And then there's a moveon.com link that you can click on. And if you support the treaty, sign it. Put your name down there in black and white and say, we support the LEAP proposed amendment of United Nations drug treaties. And I think it would just be so helpful. We've got about 1,500 people that have signed at the moment. It should be 50,000 people that have signed.
Absolutely. Jim, I want to thank you for joining us and thank you for all the information. As he said, leap.cc. Oh, we also have another thing that we just started, and that is if you have a story about the drug war affecting you or somebody close to you and the harm caused by the prohibition of these drugs, when you go to the LEAP website, look on the right-hand side. There's also a thing there you can click on, and you can submit your story. And we're trying to collect stories from around the country and from around the world from people that have been harmed by this policy. That's leap.cc, copsaylegalizedrugs.com. And, as always, I'll end with the same thing, and that is bad things happen because good people stay silent.
And with that said, I do want to remind people that tomorrow we have Paul Stanford on as our joint host, putting a focus on what's happening here in America. And what happens in this country seems to have an impact globally. And then on Friday, Michael Krawitz and I roll into a small town and put a big spotlight on a hardworking activist that's doing what they can to also end prohibition in their neck of the woods. We are a broadcasting team of people. Later today, Judge James Gray will be doing his monthly report here on the big broadcast. Coming up next, out of England, we've got Steve Danks doing a great show. And then, of course, we got all kinds of awesome programming to enjoy in the evening from all of our hosts here at Time for Hemp.
Money that they spent. Take another look and spend some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yes, it's time for him. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 bales of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our yeah.